Some people just stand out in a crowd, excellent at their craft, excellent in their thinking, and they're not hard to find because they stand out. My name is Joe Crenshaw, and I'm looking for TheStandOuts. All right, thanks so much for coming. Glad you guys are here. Ross, this is my friend Ross Paterson. Ross and I initially met at the Lyft office, which is a community co-working space in Grapevine. But Ross, thanks for coming. So glad you're here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, and so with that, I kind of want to just give a brief framework of who he is, what he does. I'll let you talk to most of that. But Ross is the owner of XM Performance, which provides business consult for small to medium-sized business owners. He also has a nonprofit organization called Global Fusion. He was an Army captain in the Army. So actually, if you just want to give some background, one to that, and then kind of that leading into your professional career.
Yeah, so, the only way I was able to go to school was I won an ROTC scholarship, so we got my college tuition paid for by the U.S. Army. Turned out to be a great opportunity for me. At 22 years old, I went on active duty as a infantry second lieutenant. Got to serve with a lot of great Americans in Germany, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. My last assignment was a company commander in the 101st Airborne Division. So a blessing. The advantage I have coming out of the Army is right from the start, I was put in pretty high stress leadership positions and given the opportunity to lead teams and platoons and companies. And then, when I decided it was time to get out into the business world, I had a distinct advantage over my peers when I first started working for GE.
Yeah, and then so with that, when I think Ross Paterson, there's a couple things that I go to, and the one in particular that's just the biggest thing, and I know it just stems from your background and how you've been trained, is discipline. Dude is just a cycling maniac. First of all, him and I cycle together, and this guy can just cycle forever, but just consistent discipline within that. But I know that has helped you with your business with XM Performance and Global Fusion. So one, talk a little bit about XM and Global Fusion, and then also just how the discipline that you carry has really impacted growth there for you.
Yeah, I think even before the Army, I was a wrestler, and the discipline that it takes in that sport, not only do I have to train hard, but I have to diet and control my weight and all those things that kind of just make you a little more gritty than the average person. And so having learned that discipline at a young age under some great coaches, that made my transition to military probably easier. So it was easier to stand out because I had certain disciplines already. But of course, the military is a great program, and the more disciplined you are, the more success you have, the more opportunities you create. And, so when it came time to kind of work on something bigger, the first thing I actually started from scratch was Global Fusion, version 1, my nonprofit. And I don't know, after 6 or 7 years at GE, I just didn't have a matchup with my soul and what we were doing at GE. And so I decided to go start something that was going to be a little more impactful, have a little more legacy potential. So we started doing some work in Afghanistan and other places, and then I just really felt like I didn't want to start an organization here that had a big overhead and that I could probably get into do some for-profit work beside my nonprofit work. And the vision I had at the time was, what if some of my donors from my nonprofit work became clients for my for-profit work? In the future, what if some of my future clients in my for-profit work became donors and partners in the nonprofit work? And here we are 10 years later, and all that's kind of come together. It's pretty amazing.
I love that. There's so much meat we could get out of that, just little tidbits. The area that I think that I really want to go to now is, you said impact, but the impact specific for you was within your passion, right? Like that you can really integrate those two things by creating this Global Fusion and then merging that with XM Performance, and now that's two different things. So talk to that process a little bit, but also just the unique and creative ways that you were able to blend those two things to create success out of that.
So I think the heart of discipline for an adult is understanding, that you're here for a reason. Right? And there's a purpose for your life, and the faster that you can kind of figure out what that is and then align the rest of the things you're doing with your life, the more impact I think you're going to have. And so, in my probably early 30s, I was wrestling with that question. What are you here for?
Yeah.
Why are you here? And after 4 or 5 years of kicking some ideas around, I kind of came to this saying. I say this a lot. I said I'm here to inspire people to live radically transformed, exceptionally fulfilling lives of significance. Right. So from that, all my business, my nonprofit, how I engage the community, how I engage my family is all driven around that one core purpose. And so my real passion kind of lies in inspiring people, because I think at some point, we all have this potential that only a small percentage of humans tap into, our full potential. Uh-huh. And so, I don't want to be that guy that, ends up in heaven, getting my tour, finding this garage still half full of stuff for Ross that I wasn't bold or courageous or faithful enough to say yes to, right? So I think, man, what if we could help everybody unlock their full potential? Yeah. And then what if we could help organizations do that? And then...
So let me ask just a little bit more global fusion purpose, because again, for that, like, you obviously have a passion for impact. So give everybody kind of an idea of the impact specific within that space that you've been able to see and what that's been.
So it's pretty bizarre experience to go from, a large driven organization like the U.S. Army to big business, GE, and then drop into the nonprofit world. Yeah. I mean, it was like, what are you doing? Are you serious? It didn't make sense to me. There were a lot of things that were happening out there. And so we got on the ground in Afghanistan in the early days of Global Fusion, and there were these churches that wanted to help. There were businesses that wanted to help. There were development agencies that wanted to help. And in the for-profit world, we're always looking for those guys who we can partner with. Hey, my client has this problem where they can't get paid fast enough. Hey, let's bring Rev 19 in, and Joe, see if you can help them with that solution to make sure they can get paid up front and get those things sent. Because I don't want to be in your space, and you don't want to be in my space. So very naturally, because the market drives us that way, we look for solutions and opportunities to collaborate. In the nonprofit world, it doesn't work like that at all. Like, hey, we got our money, we got our donors, we got our calling, and we're just going to go do this. And I was shocked to find, there were some Americans that were there in a city in the South, and there were also some South Koreans that were there that were doing some great medical work on one side of town. And these Americans came in. I'm like, hey, you need to go meet these people over here, because they're 12 months ahead of you. You could learn a lot from them. And they were just like, no, we got our plan. I'm like, and I just thought that was kind of foolishness, And so our whole idea around the nonprofit world from Global Fusion is, what if we could build and help engage these collaborative networks in these hard to get to, high risk places where efficiency is really critical to having some effectiveness. And really, to do that, we had to kind of mobilize them on some short term trips to let them see something look radically different from how they might.
Sure.
But before we could even mobilize them, we had to train them. And before you can train any adult, you have to inspire them. So that's kind of our model: inspire, train, mobilize, engage, and that's what we do at Global Fusion.
So with that, for us, a lot of the goal here is like, we want to be able to center around you with all the things that you're doing. And so I know some of that is XM Performance, some of it's Global Fusion. I know there's even passion projects on the side, whatever, right? If you're to look at opportunities that you desire, right, things that you would say are opportunities for you, what do you think for us as the community is that maybe helps position you for those things?
Yeah, so I've been trying to do a little thinking bigger in August, right? I went to a conference to think about some things. And so I think, there's this big idea I have that's emerging. It says, what if we could make small and medium businesses the best places to work in America? What would that take? Well, first of all, we got to have financially high-performing companies. We got to have leaders who can make that happen. We got to have teams that are engaged, they feel safe, they're connected, they're empowered to do big work. And then those same companies have to be engaged in their communities and looking for that bigger impact besides just making money. And if we don't do that, then these people that have needs are going to demand the government do that for us. Then they're going to tax us more, And then we're going to get a bureaucratic program where we really need a passionate, leader out there kind of trying to impact these things. So, what if we could really create that kind of community where we had a bunch of small businesses, and it wasn't only great for the community, but we were taking great care of our employees. Our employees had financial disciplines. They knew how to have a healthy marriage and be good parents. And all those things were happening in the context of small to medium business space. I don't think we'd have to compete for the best employees anymore. We'd get them.
Yeah, and that's good. That's such a large scale culture change, right?
Yeah.
And I love that you're like taking steps. Take steps towards that, because forward motion is really the goal with that. Like, how can we position ourselves to really affect and change that culture? So, thanks for being here, dude. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you guys for watching, for sure. I'll put all of Ross's information just so you guys can check out Excellent Performance. Check out Global Fusion, check out his bio, learn to cycle, whatever you want to do. So again, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, an honor to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.